Hey, what is going on, everybody? It's your boy Kris Avalon here. And before y'all start throwing the big basket of tomatoes at me, I just want to deeply apologize for not bringing you as many of the weekly episode recaps of Pose that I've been doing. And I've been constantly bringing up because, I love this show. This speaks to me. It's my life. Me coming from New York and now I'm in LA and all the other stuff. And it's just that whole vibe of the New York Queens and the ballroom scene and everything else that comes with that and that whole vibe. I apologize that I have not been bringing you as many as the episodes. I think I'm just I didn't do maybe 2 or 3 episodes because some of them were but they weren't a lot to talk about. But y'all, I couldn't let this episode Revelations. I had to come on and bring y'all the lowdown of it all. We need to get right into it because it's all wasn't a lot to unpack. Well, I might throw some stuff in from previous episodes into this to kind of bring it all together because all the episodes, the previous, what was it like? I probably didn't do maybe 2 or 3 episodes. There was some stuff that alluded, I guess, to what happened in the Revelations episode where everything came to a head and child, the gagulation of it all. So let's get into it. So we open up the show with Pray Tell and Ricky hanging out at Pray Tell's house, home, which, honey, fabulous apartment. I just live for his place because it's just so, it looks, camera makes everything look bigger, but it just looks so spacious and just so grand and fabulous. For, when you don't have something as lavish, his place does look, I have to say, Pray Tell definitely has some exquisite taste, we'll just say. So basically, it starts out with Pray Tell basically schooling Ricky on the amount of pills and everything he has to take and this herbal tea and everything to help keep his viral load up, because in last week's episode we found out that Ricky is HIV positive. Now, I like the fact that Pray came in and decided, I'm going to be sort of a father figure to him in a way. Well, I won't even say father figure. I would say more like a mentor, because he needed somebody older who could keep him on the right path of keeping himself nice and healthy so he doesn't wind up emaciated in a hospital dying, because, in the 80s and 90s, the medications weren't as powerful and as strong and keeping people as alive as they are now. So, the amount of precautions, everything you have to take, and all the, you got to take a whole cocktail of pills. And I can't even imagine, even today, what so many people go through who are HIV positive. So kudos to all y'all out there who are fighting this fight every day. And we're still trying to find a cure for this horrible ass disease. And I also want to give a shout out to the many children who came before me, the forefathers and all those people who pretty much just fought out there on the forefronts and have not been alive and have been taken out by the AIDS Holocaust. Basically keeping my generation and those beyond informed and alive and aware of everything that's going on in regards of HIV and being more aware about it. So, then it becomes a situation where Ricky's like, can I stay over at your place? Because, what's her name? Because Electra, because he's a part of the house of, I was about to say the House of Dior. What part? The House of Wintour. So now, because he's a part of the House of Wintour, motherfucker, another thing. Can y'all just stop hopping from house to house to house to house to house? Y'all like some house whores. He's like Cubby and Lamar. Like, one minute y'all with this house and the next minute you with another goddamn house. Can you stick to one damn house? And I got to speak about the future of the House of Evangelista, but I'm gonna get to that at the end because I don't want to just jump ahead. But watching this whole situation go down, he's like, can I stay over? And it's just there have been moments where he was flirting with Pray Tell, and I'm sitting here like, bitch, don't do it. The whole time. Even last week's episode where he was like, maybe I need a daddy. And I'm like, okay, well, we could take this one or two ways. One, you need a daddy as in a father figure, or in our situation, with the children, we go, I need a daddy. And a daddy is something you want your back blown out by somebody who's a little older, who's gonna teach you the ways of the world and this, that, and the third, but also teach your whole the ways of the world. Playing Where's Waldo with your booty hole. So doing all that shit. So then it becomes a situation where Pray's in bed and he's like, should I go there? Should I not go there? The temptation is there. And he was giving him that look when Ricky turned away and he was flirting. He was like, You know that old look that the black queens be giving. It's like, child, he get about my sugar walls is starting to bubble a little bit. Like that's the vibe that I basically got when he was like, and you know, that's how it gets sometimes. Like when you haven't had none. Some of us, you know, it's like, ooh, you know, you get like that Stephanie Mills song, I need the comfort of a man. And it got to that point where Ricky all of a sudden got in the bed with Pray Tell and Praise, like, what are you doing? He was like, no, you know, and then one thing led to another, and all of a sudden them two started fucking, and he's like, oh, you know, Ricky winds up having Pray and took it in the bud. Yes, what? And then all of a sudden he's like, I want you to have me too. Then all of a sudden we go back into the other little Kim, take it in the bud. Yes, what? And then all of a sudden they having each other. And then I'm sitting there the whole time like this, because, you know, clutching my imaginary pearls, just watching that episode. I'm like, man, what is happening? Like the first 5 minutes of this show had me gagging of all gaggalizations. So watching that, I was just like, okay, so where are we going with this? And then all of a sudden I started thinking, you know what? While I understand that you need the comfort of a man, and it is hard, especially when you're a black gay man and you're of a certain age, like Pray Tell's in his mid-40s, and there's this thing in the gay community where it's just like the minute you hit 40, you're over the hill, you're tired, you should be put out to pasture. You know, your walls are dusty, nobody wants to fuck with you, which I don't even understand where all this shit comes from. Like, we have this whole Peter Pan syndrome. We're so fixated on youth and all this other stuff, which, quiet as it's kept, one of the things I love about what a lot of my older friends used to always tell me, and I never used to get it until now that I'm a lot older, they would always say youth is wasted on the young. And I was just like, bitch, but you stop trying to come for us young people. But then it's like when you get older and stuff, it kind of gets to that same, you start to see that. And it's just like, yeah, like people put so much energy and emphasis on youth. I think it's because it's the innocence factor. They don't know a lot of, you know, young people don't know a lot of stuff. So in so many ways, people can jump in and take advantage of people because they're young and they're naive and they're wet behind the ears and all that other stuff. And I just think it's unfair. So it is what it is. So my thing is, it's like, I really wish that Prey would have just kind of hesitated and just be like, you know what? I just want to help keep you on the right path and keep you alive because you're a young gay man, black man with HIV, and you need to maneuver your way through this crazy world in which we're living in, especially as a young black man who's HIV positive. But then again, it's like, I get it. Pray Tell someone who his last relationship was the guy that we saw in the first season. And then we found out what happened to him, because I was just like, all of a sudden, y'all never mentioned what happened to this boy. I've also noticed in polls, y'all do like throwaway shit. Like, okay, you'll mention something. So-and-so is just like off. It's kind of like Judy when she went upstairs in Family Matters and never came the fuck back down. It's kind of like that. Where it's like, y'all just mention shit drastically and, oh, okay, so that's what happened to so-and-so. And then, yeah, so it is what it is. So, when Ricky was like in that scene, another thing with the scene with Ricky when he was going like, who's gonna love me? Did y'all have a flashback to Precious when Monique was saying that? Who gonna love me? Well, her big ass up in there crying to Mariah Carey during that whole scene when, you know, she blamed Precious for everything that was going on with her. It's like, someone will love you for you. But Ricky was being messing with that old cockeyed motherfucker that he was on tour with Albie Shore fucking this queen, and then she up in there trying to throw shade at Damon. And I was like, Damon, you better get how I get when these motherfuckers be trying to get up in my face, trying to challenge me on some shit. Slap her ass the fuck down. And that's what he did when it was at the ball a couple of episodes ago. And then, but yeah, that whole time with the whole thing with Ricky and everything on whether or not he cheated, I knew he cheated. And you know, shit happens. You on tour and temptation and all this other stuff, but you can't just be going around fucking Tom, Dick, and Harry in them days without no motherfucking condom and expect that you're not gonna come out with something. Like, it's not like today where you could take PrEP or, you know, you get a shot of penicillin in your ass and then the chlamydia and stuff goes away. It wasn't like, I don't think that it would be like that. Like, you know, brush your dick up against somebody's ass crack and you wind up with HIV. Like, that's how it was in them days. And it's unfortunate, but It is what it is. So let's move on to Poppy in bed with Angel. Now, I had to say I did live for that scene with Poppy and Angel in bed in their underwear, and I'm sitting there looking in between Poppy's legs. It was like, yes, honey. Like, he just giving me all the Latino Bronx trade when I was looking at that. Yes, honey. It was like just living for it. And then you see, did y'all notice? I mean, I get it, whatever, but Angel being trans and all, but bitch, her feet was huge. Like that bitch got some big ass feet. And that's all I kept saying there. Like, she had them big old Flintstone feet in that bed. I'm like, girl, like, I'm looking at that. But you know what? It is. Look, sometimes we got to crack a joke or some shit. I know people getting up there, you trying to make fun of her because she no, she got some big ass fucking Flintstone feet. It is what it is. Like, sometimes, with these tall girls, they got some big ass. Look at Wendy Williams. She got them old big old ham hock feet. I make fun of them shits too. So, basically, he was talking to Angel and all this other stuff, and then she goes and he's basically like takes it to his friend Joaquin's apartment that's like $450. I'm like, motherfucker, where can I find one of those? Because I understand like back in the days of the 90s, like, yeah, if you lived in Midtown Manhattan or if you lived somewhere in Manhattan like the West Village and you lived a couple of blocks away from the pier, you can get a $450 a month apartment. I kind of wish it was still like that in these days where there was affordable housing and this and the other. But it's just, New York has gotten so goddamn expensive, it's ridiculous. Like, an apartment like that today would probably cost like, who knows, like $2,200. Like if you was to move to Manhattan, like in that area today, like an apartment. And that was a cute little studio. So he's encouraging Angel to finally get her own shit because, she's a model, she's making a ton of money, she's doing well for herself. So it's like, yeah, let me just get my own. Like, it's about that time you kind of get your own and not be living with Blanca, even though, this is the house of Evangelista and the house children need to all stick together. But then again, children come and go and you have to rebuild your house and bring in new members and stuff, which based off that, and when we get on later on the show, I hope that's what Blanca's going to do, because she barely got a damn house as it is. Like, all them bitches is gone at this point. But we're going to get to that. I'm not going to cut, like, immediately to the end. I got to break everything down. So, Pray Tell, meeting up with the queens for the bi-monthly meeting with the balls. Can I just say I lived for that scene because it just reminded me of a lot of the older queens when I was young, when I was a wee little gay. When I would sit around a lot of my older black friends, because like when I came out of high school, like one of my friends, Shamik from school, his cousin was gay, so that's how I kind of met all of my older gay friends. So being around him, and then I went to a party one day and I started hanging out with all these people who were in their 30s and 40s and listening to them, just kikiing and ripping each other and just reading and throwing shade and all that stuff. Like, I'm sitting there just living for it and laughing and just having a good time. And that's basically how I learned how to read people, is because I sat around a lot of the older black queens and I just listened to them rip into each other, and I learned how to come up with a rhythm, and like just listening to how they kind of went at it with each other and just reading and, bumping pocketbooks and all the different phrases that we always call it. And bumping pocketbooks, for all of y'all that don't know, basically means like two bottoms coming together and trying to make a sexual situation work. So that's basically what bumping pocketbooks means, in case there's some of y'all who are of the heterosexual persuasion that are watching this episode. Just explaining like little things here and there. So we had our own, we still do, even though a lot of y'all have taken it. Hey, Nene Leakes and Tamar Braxton, y'all have taken our gay lingo and monetized it. We still have plenty more where that has come from. So have at it. Go in and let have. So just hearing them at the table, whatever, reading each other, because Pray Tell walking up in there, pop dipping and spinning because he just got his sugar walls violated. And then them going back and forth, and then him talking about he's taking on a lover of who's a younger man, and this, that, and the other. Like, them going in on him about that. And I get it. It's just like sometimes you can't judge or come for someone's situation based off of who they're in a relationship with. Sometimes you can't pick and choose who you get with because sometimes, well, for me, I'll say this. I go based off energy. I can't sit and focus and waste a lot of energy on, oh, well, I can't get with you because you still got Similac on your breath. Or I can't get with you because of this or whatever reason. I think sometimes we put too many boundaries on ourselves. But then again, I do have a rule where it's just like, if you know someone who's in a relationship with someone and you know their baggage, you know their history, you know that this person may still have feelings for someone who you're close to, then I don't think you should be fooling around with that person. But then again, like I stated earlier, Pray Tell's an older man. He's lonely. He's got HIV. There's not many people out here there's still people in 2019 that use bad words like, oh, please be clean. Like being HIV is you're dirty or you're nasty or you're unfuckable and all this other stuff. Meanwhile, there's plenty of queens out here who are having lots of bareback sex in sex clubs with people who they don't know whose status they are. But the minute you tell and ain't worrying about whether or not or putting themselves at risk every time they get penetrated, don't necessarily know if this person is HIV positive or is on PrEP, because a lot of times people will tell you they're on PrEP and they're not on it. Trust and believe. There are people out here who lie about their status all the time. But meanwhile, when you have a guy who tells you the truth about themselves, that they're HIV positive, they take their medication, they're positive but undetectable, and there will be people who will literally just shade you because of that. And it's like, well, thank you for being honest and taking my health into consideration, because now I can make the decision on whether or not I want to be with you for that reason. Or my educational background on knowing about HIV is that, okay, if you're positive and undetectable, you cannot transmit the HIV viruses. But I've had plenty of sex with guys who are HIV positive but undetectable, unprotected sex, and I'm still HIV negative. So it's like, making that risk and understanding what it is, and I know people will probably judge whatever, but I don't give a fuck. It's my life, it's my body. I make a decision on what I want to do with whoever I want to make it with. You have to be able to take on that responsibility of that, which is what I'm about to get to next when I talk about Damon and Ricky hanging out the apartment together. Speaking of which, before we get into that scene, shout out to Matt Quayle, who is really on it with the music of this show. I love the music because this music takes me back to when I was a wee little child growing up in the 80s. My era of growing up was in the 90s, but when you're a wee little baby in the 80s and you hear songs like, I don't think they played Soul to Soul and stuff on there, but it's like when you hear the music of now and a lot of that music, like the Albie Shores, the Stephanie Mills, and all these other people, this is stuff that my parents, like my mother used to play these records around the house. Or like for me, I lived in the projects in Brooklyn. The neighbors would always be blasting the latest R&B, hip hop, whatever outside their apartment. So I would hear all of this music, and so it kind of just me watching Pose. It takes me back to that era of I remember hearing this music growing up. So it just takes me back to a time when music made you feel a certain kind of way, and I kind of wish the music of today was kind of like that instead of just like that dumb Migos bullshit where people just mumbling or just saying dumb shit that gets caught up in your head, but it's not even a song. It's just a bunch of shit to a twerking beat. Like, to me, I miss those days where people actually took the time to come up with a song with a melody and a hook, and the production made you feel a certain kind of, like, it just got you grooving in your seat or shaking your ass or doing whatever. So everybody ain't got to be out here twerking, because quite as kept, some of y'all asses need to kind of sit in the seat instead of you making it pop, lock, and drop in my face. But anyway, back to the whole situation with Ricky and Damon. Now, them two getting together and having that comment, them hanging out, and then Ricky basically like, oh no, I can't eat none of that processed stuff because it's gonna take mess with his body and all this stuff. Well, you used to say like it wasn't an issue and all this other stuff. Like, you had no problem with it. So then of course this prompts, because now all of a sudden Damon wants to get back with Ricky. Like, oh yeah, okay, I've moved on from my feelings about you and Kris and all this other drama and the cheating and however I was feeling and not wanting to be with you anymore. So now we need to have this conversation about let's get back together, which of course was poor timing, which prompted Ricky to tell Damon that he's HIV positive. And I love the fact that in that scene, it basically took me to a time where I remember friends of mine who've had to go through that, and that moment of, okay, I have to tell this person my status who I deeply love and care about. Because to be honest, there are a lot of people out here who won't even tell you shit basically get in bed with you because they're afraid of the rejection, and will get in bed with you and tell, and oh yeah, I'm negative, and then will have sex with you because they want to get their rocks off, whatever the case is, or out of that fear, and then all of a sudden you wind up with HIV, and then here, Damon goes getting all upset with Ricky because, well, I trusted you without us. So it's like, okay, yeah, that's true. But at the same time, like I was alluding to earlier, as an adult, we have to take responsibility for our actions. So every time you get in bed with somebody, regardless if you're in love with them or just a one-night trick, you need to take your health into consideration, especially with how HIV was in the 80s and 90s. It wasn't like it is now, where people get HIV and then they take medications. All some of the medications keep them going for years and years and years and years. Yeah, this was still like a lot of trial runs, a lot of different types of pills and all these different type of medications that was coming out, and they were basically using a lot of people as guinea pigs to see, okay, what works, what doesn't work, what's going to take its toll on your liver, what's going to cause these side effects when you get the big hump on your neck and all that other shit. Like, there's just so many different aspects that people had to learn. And yes, there were a lot of trials that was going on with a lot of that stuff. So while I get where Damon was coming from, I also think that maybe Damon was beating up on himself because he's like, you know what, I put myself in a situation that I shouldn't have. But he's been warned about this prior. Like another thing, I didn't understand why Blanca was letting Ricky and Damon, two house children, fuck up in her house. Because my thing was like, no, there's a rule. Besides the drugs, you do drugs, you out of my house. If y'all are family, siblings, we don't sleep together. That is out. Like, to me, Angel and Ricky and Damon should not have been a couple, and Angel and Poppy should not be a couple. There needs to be like, there should have been something to be said, because now when you look at it, she ain't got no goddamn house members. They all gone at this point. So you letting everybody fuck up in your house. Now everybody's gone. But I'm gonna get to that in a second on what happened with everybody. So there's another thing I want to talk about too, the old man daddy complex. Like, that is something that I feel like that should be talked about a lot more within our community, where you get a lot of these young boys whose fathers aren't in their life because, you know, there's just this big stigma about black men and fathers and all that other stuff in our community where a lot of fathers aren't in the picture. Luckily for me, I've had both of my parents, but I will say this. When you are a child who is a person of color and you're gay or a part of the LGBT queer spectrum, you get a lot of those fathers who, you know, my father is black. So there is this don't ask, don't tell sort of vibe that is put with that. So it's not something my father and I talk about. So I've had to go and seek outside information from people. That's why I gravitated towards a lot of the older gay men out there in the community, where I can learn how to protect myself and get that guidance that a straight, cisgender, whatever you want to call it, man of color cannot tell their child because they can't relate. So we have our chosen family and we have our family, the family that we're born into, versus the chosen family, where you get the house mother and a house father who kind of teach you and guide you and tell you, don't mess with that one over there, he's trouble. Don't mess with this one because this is that's his reputation, or this, that, and the third. So I hung around. I wasn't a part of a house, but I hung around people who taught me the right way on who to stay away from, who to hang out with, who to do this with, who to do that with, and I listened to that, surprisingly. But I think I've always been like this old soul where I've gravitated towards older people and wanted to seek their wisdom and guidance. I don't know where that came from, but it's just, maybe I'm just because I've been on this earth before, and I do believe that we've been on this earth numerous times, and we in different shades and forms and all other stuff. So yeah, we do have this thing called the older man complex, and young man, older man complex, May December, whatever you want to call it. We do have that complex where it's just like we don't have a platform to speak on a lot of these issues, and that's why I guess I do this thing on YouTube, where it's just like, now that I'm getting older and I'm starting to kind of get to a place where, you know, I'm about to go over that bridge and step into like the 40s decade, because I'm like late 30s, all this stuff. I want to pass on the wisdom to the people that I learned from. So yeah, so there's that, and I guess we'll talk about that. Maybe I'll do a whole thing on that topic another time. But so um where am I gonna go? Okay, so then we went from that to Damon graduating from the new school. So congratulations to him on that. That he finally graduated from the new school and he's able to go off and pursue his career as a professional dancer. Now, what I didn't understand was like, okay, after that scene, and we get to the speech where they have the house party that Blanca basically threw for Damon, and all of a sudden it was like, well, I'm living for it, and he gives a speech, and all of a sudden Angel jumps in and starts throwing shade at Damon. I'm like, where the fuck this shit coming from? And I remember I was like, okay, so now is it the cocaine talking that all of a sudden got her being shady? And I'm sitting there like, bitch, first of all, you should not be coming for someone who knows you're doing drugs, who caught you and Poppy doing some shit. So if I know where the bodies is buried and I'm holding your secret, I don't think you should be coming for me. And I don't understand where that's coming from. And I know some people I saw would say, oh, maybe because, I be reading the timelines and stuff, the polls, when people be tweeting and stuff, live tweeting the episodes, which I live for that also. A lot of people were saying that maybe it was because she was high on cocaine. But honey, let me tell you this. Well, maybe it works for different people, but I have taken a ride on the white horse quite a few times, and I will tell you this. While I am Chatty Cathy, when I'm snorting little good stuff every now and again, it has never made me mean and malicious. Like, cocaine does not do that. So I don't understand where all that was coming from. I think it was maybe she was being envious and all this other stuff. But then again, I've noticed on polls, like, sometimes y'all just be throwing shit out of nowhere and just expect us to just accept it. And that I think is an issue that I have with the show. Like, y'all be coming out of left field with shit. And all of a sudden, like, when did this happen? Like, I need build up. I get y'all have, like, what's this season? I think this season is like 10 episodes or something or another. I need build up. I get that y'all try to cramp so much in, but stop throwing stuff out of the middle of nowhere into stuff. Like, I don't like that. Like, that's kind of my issue with that. And I think they need to get a little bit better with that, with the plotting of certain things. I know y'all trying to find stuff for people to do in regards to plot and storyline and stuff, but y'all, there needs to be a build up to it. I'm not saying a slow build, but y'all need to build up to some shit. Okay, so then Damon full on turned into Vanessa Williams in Soulful and started spilling everybody's tea, including the family fucked my husband and all that other bullshit. And I'm sitting there like, when he went and revealed like Pray Tell, teaching them things and all that other stuff, what I had gotten from that scene when Ricky went and said that, I did not get sex. So I don't know how Damon jumped to that immediately when he brought that up at the table. And the fact that Blanca immediately took Angel's side in regards to the drugs, when I was like, okay, so now she treats her children differently. And I remember like when I would see friends of mine on social media talking about, oh, well, the writers and colorism. And I was like, no, I don't think that's what it is. Like, y'all always so automatically want to jump to race and colorism about everything. I don't think that's what it is. But I think it was just, yes, Blanca does not treat all of her children the same. And that's true to even, I think, biological parents with their biological children. They don't treat their children the same. They like to think they do. They like to tell themselves that they do. They like to tell their children they do. But I can tell you, as someone who is a middle child, my mother has 3 children. She has not treated us all the same. And I see it. I bring it up. She denies it. Oh, no, I treat you. No, you don't. So I totally got that. And to me, I thought it was unfair that, okay, Damon has been there for Blanca and a lot of stuff that she's been doing, and it's great that she's off trying to get her own. But yeah, she does not treat all of her children the same. She is, Poppy sold drugs. She kicked his ass out for a month. This one's snorting drugs. And I'm so glad also, and then she lets her stay. And I'm so glad that Angel was like, you know what, this is me. I did this. Don't blame this on Poppy. I had a friend of mine who did that shit last week. Oh, Poppy got her caught. No. Nobody put a gun to Angel's head and told her to snort cocaine. She took it upon herself. Now, the whole idea of her all of a sudden trying to, doing one line and all of a sudden she acting like Halle Berry in Jungle Fever, like that was too much for me. I wasn't buying that. Like, okay, one line of coke is not going to have you acting like a fucking dope fiend on the corner trying to get a couple of quarters just so you go to the dealer. Like, I don't think with drugs it works that quickly. You have to be doing that shit for a long period of time. Or maybe it does. I don't know. But I guess I should also say that, you know what, when it comes to drugs or whatever, everybody operates differently. Their bodies are different. So maybe you could just do like one little line and all of a sudden you become this full on, addict that needs to go on celebrity rehab or whatever the case is. Um, but yeah, so this whole thing happens. Angel's, about to get kicked out or about to leave because of the whole drama that happened. Then Pray Tell's put on blast. Blanca kicks him out because they found out that they had sex. And I'm sitting there like, first of all, I don't know how they would have picked that up, but I guess it was just a way that maybe he had a feeling, and then because you can teach people things without it having to resort to sex, but all of a sudden he jumped there. So maybe that was just a mistake that I think the writers did, where they want us to, who automatically jumps to sex? Like, you would really think that as someone, you've been as close to Pray Tell, and you know Pray Tell, that Pray Tell would do something like that? Like, why would y'all automatically jump to that? So that was an issue that I had in the writing. So, yeah, Blanca being a hypocrite with Angel, already spoke on that. I did like the conversation between Pray Tell and Blanca outside the ball, where Damon won his little voguing thing. And I shout out to that scene because that gave me vibes of Willy Ninja, where he was doing the voguing and then on the floor and all the other stuff. That was giving me old Willy Ninja vibes. So I peeped that. And then he got his little trophy and walked out and gave that eye, rolled his eyes to Blanca and gave her shade and left because he was pissed at her still. And then her going outside having that conversation with Pray Tell, and them having a conversation about what he's going through being a black gay man who's with HIV, and her being a woman who's trans with HIV. And kudos to next week's episode, because I see y'all trying to do the girls trip episode where all the girls are about to go away on vacation and Blanca finds love, where it be a temporary or whatever the case is. So we'll see that. I don't know which one of y'all is going to be Tiffany Haddish with the grapefruit, but we'll see in next week's episode. Ricky sticking around and making Pray Tell breakfast. I did like that scene. I thought that was cute. Seeing how long that's gonna last, we'll see. I don't necessarily know how long that whole situation is gonna, but I think it's just like these two need each other for now. I'm not looking at this as, this is gonna be a relationship thing, because I don't see that's what that's gonna be. But them two kind of just hanging out and helping each other in their own little way. I'm curious to see where this relationship's gonna go with those two. Angel and Blanca meeting up and her admitting everything, even though I think Blanca knew in her heart of hearts but didn't want to admit that this shit was going on. She was like, just go ahead, kick me out. I can take it. I love you still, but you need to abide by your rules with not just certain people, but with every one of your children. So at this point, her house is disbanded. Like, Damon's off going to work for Malcolm McLaren, who a lot of people who don't know who Malcolm McLaren is, he was someone who was behind, actually, Willy Ninja's had a song that came out, I think it was called Deep in Vogue back in the day. So he was a part of that song. He's a performance artist. He was in a relationship with the legendary Vivienne Westwood, who was a fashion icon. So that whole thing, the homages and everything that they pay attention to in there. So if you have not heard of Malcolm McLaren, definitely look him up. He is an icon within himself. So seeing all of that was amazing. So Damon's gonna go off and work with him overseas. So we're gonna see how that. I guess that's like tying everybody else up with a bow and see what all happens. I'm curious of what the season finale is gonna be, because pretty much they're all gone. Angel's got her own apartment, so I don't know what's gonna happen with Poppy. I think Poppy's the only one in the house. Speaking of which, I did live for that scene when they were like, "Oh, this shit is scandalous." Like when with damn, what's her name? Electra and Lulu were at the table, and it was just that I just lived for that part with them two just like instigate, because that'd be me on the sidelines like, bitch, let me sip my tea as I engorge in all this shade. Like, I just live for it. So I was loving every little bit of that scene. I just had to go back to that. I actually rewound that scene like 4 times because I was just living for the key of it all. So yeah, so I already talked about that. Yeah, so I think that was basically the whole episode. I thought this episode was just the juiciest of all juice. I lived for everything that was going on up in there, and it was just like, revelations. All was revealed, just about. And I'm just curious to see what's gonna happen within the next 2 episodes. And of course I'm gonna recap what's gonna go on in those, because I love Pose, and I'm really hoping and praying that we get more shows like this. Not necessarily about the ball scene, but more TV shows featuring queer people of color and our stories getting put out there that needs to be told. And I'm looking forward to it. If I could be part of this in any way, I put shit out in the universe. Hope, and I always say, when you speak stuff into existence, so it happens. If I could be a part of all of this, I would love to be a part of it. So, and also, I just want to say thank you all who stuck around and watched this entire episode of Avalon's review. Well, Pose Season 2, Episode 8, Revelations. Thank you all for watching. If you like this episode, click like and subscribe, share it, let everybody know that this is something that they should be watching, this, that, and the third. Love you all for watching this and all of my videos that I post up, and also follow me on the internet as well. I have a radio show called The Kris Avalon Show. It's on alldigitalradio.com if you don't want to listen to it live, 2 to 4 on the East Coast, 11 a.m. on the West Coast. You could basically go on iHeartRadio. Just Google Kris Avalon Show. It's on iHeartRadio. It's on Stitcher app. It's on iTunes. It is everywhere. It is everything. Love you all for watching this clip. Bye, darlings.